You want to learn how to break into medical sales, one of the most competitive industries to get into, and one of the most rewarding careers to build. My name is Samuel, and this is Evolve Your Success. All right, today we're talking about medical sales interviews. A medical sales interview is an opportunity to showcase why you're a good fit for the job. I think what people need to realize as they go into an interview is this person does not know you. They've never seen you in a lot of cases. Now, if you happen to network really well and do what you're supposed to do to get in front of interviews and align it properly, fantastic. But most people apply, somehow get an opportunity, and they find themselves in front of an interview. What they don't realize is because this person doesn't know you, sounding rehearsed is not it. Sounding canned is not it. Stuttering and not being able to know what you're talking about is not it. What it is your opportunity to show someone that you understand who you are, the value you bring, and you're very intentional in the things you do. And one of the things that usually kicks off every single medical sales interview is the question. Some of you are already thinking about it. Tell me about yourself. So let's talk about it. So what is this question? Tell me about yourself. So yes, it does mean to tell someone about yourself, but what are they actually evaluating? And I want everybody to take this in, write this down. There are three things every single person that asks you this question is really trying to understand with that statement or question. Tell me about yourself, or can you tell me about yourself? One, can you communicate clearly? That's number one. Can you even communicate clearly anything that we're talking about today with their time with you? Number two, do you know how to position yourself? Right? This has to make sense for the person that's talking to you. You sitting in front of them and them taking their time to talk with you about why you're a good fit for this company, it has to make sense. So do you know how to position yourself so that it actually makes sense? And then three, are you confident under pressure? And so that third one, what does that mean? Confidence under pressure. This is what's being evaluated with confidence under pressure. If the world is falling apart around you, let's say you hear extremely loud noises outside, you see water coming in at the doorway, you see a fire maybe off in the corner at the side of your eye, and you're sitting in front of somebody and someone says, "What's your name?" Are you going to say your name confidently? Of course you are. You might even look around and say, "Well, my name is Samuel." It's just going to come right off. There's nothing really that could happen that could throw you off of being able to answer the question, "What's your name?" That's an example of confidence under pressure. Now, is it because you're so boastful and confident about your name? No. It's because you understand it, you know it, and you know it to your core, right? So it really doesn't matter what pressure you're under. If somebody asks you your name, 9 times out of 10, and really 10 times out of 10, you're going to be able to answer them without a hitch. This is the same thing that needs to happen when somebody asks, "Tell me about yourself." That confidence under pressure needs to show, not because you're this really confident person or you're an arrogant person or anything like that, but simply because whatever is coming out of your mouth regarding this question, you know it to your core. You're not making it up. It's not memorized for them to hear. It's not canned. It's not polished. It's just what is. And this is critical because there's a study in the Harvard Business Review that said interviewers check out within the first 60 to 90 seconds if the person is not sounding coherent. Can you imagine that? Like, talk about pressure. You have enough pressure with your 30-minute interview, and now you risk losing it all in the first 60 to 90 seconds of it. And sure, maybe it's not as final as losing it all, but why do you want to fight an uphill battle for the next 29 minutes? Why not start off strong? This question, "Tell me about yourself," it really gives you an opportunity to control the tone of the interview. It gives you an opportunity to make that strong impression that you do know what you're talking about, right? You do know how to be confident under pressure. You do know how to position yourself, and you can communicate very clearly. And that allows you to literally control the tone of the rest of the interview. And they're giving you the benefit of the doubt for the next 29 minutes. So how do we do this? And before we even get into that, I'm a numbers guy, so I got to lay some stats down. Some other statistics from the Harvard Business Review show that, and check this out, candidates who ramble are 30% less likely to be rated as confident. So think about that. If you're kicking off your interview and you just go into a ramble when you're asked, tell me about yourself, you're already getting knocked down for being considered not confident, even if you're very confident about what you bring to the table. And then on top of that, candidates who answer concisely are 40% more likely to move on to the next round. One of the questions I get all the time is, Samuel, I thought I was doing everything right. I have the background. I have what they're looking for. I showed up to the interview. I gave it my all. I was concise. You thought, right? And everyone thinks they're a good interviewer, but do you understand what concise actually means, right? Concise means really you speak in terms of a structure. So to be concise, you got to be tight and you got to communicate what you want to say in usually the least amount of words as possible. To get to that level of communication, you operate with a structure. And the great thing about answering questions like, tell me about yourself, is we have a structure that we can absolutely use to make sure we're not part of that 30% that gets marked down as not confident. So let's do it. What is the structure to answer this question? And the structure should look like this. First, you start with your present, then your past, and then the future. That's it. Real simple. So let's break it down. What does that mean? Your present is what you're doing right now, what skills you're using today, and what role you currently have. Your past is all about your background and how that led to where you are today. And your future is why you think all of this matters to be in medical sales and why you think all of this matters to be in a good position for this position. That's it. Real simple, real straightforward. The present, the past, the future. And this sets up the structure to help you be much more concise. Now, is it going to be this easy for everyone? Of course not. Let's be honest here. There's way more nuance to each part of this, and that would take an entirely new set of videos. And really, that's why we have an entire program that gets into the details for those that want to just really make sure it lands with impact. But I can promise you this, just taking this structure alone, the present, past, and future, is going to dramatically improve how you're communicating if you're someone that's listening to this right now in the middle of an interview or you're about to be in one. Present, past, future. Follow that structure anytime you're asked a question around, tell me about yourself, and you'll be able to dramatically improve your answers. So I'd be remiss if I didn't give you some of the things you absolutely don't do. This is when you take all of this into account, again, it's going to improve wherever you are today and make you that much more impactful for your next interview. Number one, you don't need to start with where you were born. Now, if it's really cool for the story, like, hey, let's pretend you're a Midwestern person, and this Midwestern culture, maybe you were raised on a farm or something, really speaks well to the hard work ethic you're proposing you have, and why that ties into being a powerful medical sales rep. So if you kicked it off with, look, I was born in Idaho, and let me tell you, sure, that can work if the rest of your story works and it's concise. But usually, starting with where you were born and what happened in your childhood does not truly serve being concise. Again, it has to make sense, and really this is what I should say to everyone listening. Just make sure it makes sense. If somebody asks you a very specific question, hey, tell me about yourself, they're asking about you. But why are you in this interview? You're in this interview to get a medical sales job. So they're asking about you, but they're asking about you and everything that pertains to this medical sales job. So to take them into this side story of what happened in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade might not make a lot of sense, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. To take them to where you were born in the city and what happened the first 10 years of your life might not make a lot of sense. Now, if something traumatic happened or if something significant happened that directly leads into you being or wanting medical sales, sure. But in the grand scheme of things, you want to share the things that pertain to why you're there. And that's what I mean by it. It really does have to make sense. So you don't have to lay out where you were born unless it truly makes sense for the story. Another thing is, you don't need to go through every single job you had, especially if you've had a lot of jobs. Now, that's, again, a whole nother podcast as far as how many jobs you share. But in general, you want to share the jobs that speak highly of this position that you want, right? So if you had 10 jobs, maybe 5 of them really lend to being a powerhouse in medical sales. Those are the jobs you're talking about. Or maybe just 3 of them lend to being a powerhouse in medical sales. Those are the jobs you're highlighting. You're not going through all 10. And what happened here? Because what happens when you do that? You start to ramble. You're not sticking to a structure. You're no longer concise. And now they're just suffering through the next 29 minutes waiting to get to the next candidate. Don't put yourself in that boat. You do not need to go through every single job you had. And then lastly, don't ramble in unrelated career paths. See, a lot of people, they didn't take the time to set up a structure. They didn't even think about the present, the past, and the future. And they just walked into that interview. They were asked a question. They let out some information. They second guessed it in their head. And then they spent the next 2 minutes rambling, trying to make it make sense. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Why put yourself in that situation? That doesn't even have to happen. Before you get into that interview, take the time to sit and assess what your structure is, how to be concise, and walk into that interview and answer confidently. If this video helped you understand this is just a framework. It's not the craftsmanship. Inside the Medical Sales Career Builder program, we literally teach you how to structure and engineer your background, whether it's healthcare, B2B sales, college student, mid-career professional, education, wherever it is you come from, so your answer sounds clear, is compelling, and truly lands with every stage of the interview, from the recruiter to the hiring manager, to the senior leader, to the panel, to the sales rep, and all the way to the offer letter. And if you want strategies like this that actually move the needle so you can get the job, make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this video, and drop a comment about the next question you want to tackle.